things. Having the fact that they do seem to be both in their own way, feeling that the way.
Yeah.
Microphone's muted. Okay, good. All right. This is an energy management. It's just a.
Anyway, so I'm just sort of gonna.
Alex, you're on mute, just so you know.
Thanks, Christina. Welcome, everyone, to Net Zero Planning and Low Carbon Initiatives as part of our Energy Management and Efficient Electrification series for Ontario municipalities. Just as everyone slides in here, we're going to give it a second to get organized. As part of kind of facilitating this many people, we are going to off the bat mute everyone, but we encourage everyone's participation. So if you do have a question, comment, or something to contribute, please raise your hand. And at that point, we'll identify you and you can unmute yourself to speak, and then we'll ask you to go back on mute just for background noise and clarity and things like that. So in a second here, we'll get started. Wonderful. So for those who just trickled in, welcome to Net Zero Planning and Low Carbon Initiatives as part of our Energy Management and Efficient Electrification series for Ontario municipalities. My name is Alex Thrower, and I'm here on behalf of Save On Energy, and I'm joined by Christian Tham, and I'm going to pass it over to him.
Sure. Thank you, Alex. Welcome, everyone. Good to see you. You see we've got a lot of people in the house today, and that's a good thing. Thank you for choosing to spend your first day of spring with us. I guess today is the first day of spring. I think so, 21st. Thank you for choosing to spend this day with us. And then a Friday like this, 11 a.m., sticking around with us. We're going to have fun in terms of low carbon and net zero. I will just want my other colleagues, co-presenters, and of course, Stephen Dixon, my co-pilot, to introduce themselves to the crowd so that they get to know who you are. I will start with Stephen Dixon, then as per the faces I see on my screen, then move on to Supri, then Christina, you take over from there. Stephen, over to you.
Thanks, Christian. Good morning, everybody. I probably won't be speaking a lot today. This is Christian's show and Supri's and Christina's, and I think you're really enjoying what they have to say. I work with all of them quite a bit. I am an energy guy for over 40 years, and this is what I do. So looking forward to the show, Christian.
Sure, thank you. Supri, a little bit of introduction from yourself.
Thank you so much, Christian. Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Supri. I'm the Energy and Sustainability Coordinator at the town of Ajax. I take care of all of the corporate emissions and energy-related items here. I'm happy to be here and discuss more about our initiatives. Thank you.
Great. And Christina, please.
Hi, everybody. I'm Christina Guido. I'm the Energy and Environment Specialist with the town of Caledon. This May will be my 10th year with the town, so I've been here a while. And very similar roles and responsibilities as Supri. So I oversee the town's corporate climate portfolio of work. So that involves looking at energy conservation and efficiency opportunities within our town-owned buildings, and also looking at the town's fleet and seeing how we can reduce emissions from that portfolio. And then just looking at waste diversion opportunities and water conservation opportunities within our own facilities. So thanks for having me here today. Happy to be here and looking forward to sharing a bit more about Caledon.
Sure, thank you all. So we're going to move. Let me just go through an overview of the agenda, what we have here. We're going to dive straight. We'll go into a Mentimeter. First of all, let me just do my personal housekeeping. I tend to talk very fast. And if I go too fast, you will not even hear what I'm saying. So if I'm going too fast, I encourage you to put a smiley, a smiling emoji in the chat, then I'll know I'm going too fast, then I'll slow down. And I have a story on that. 2 nights ago, my son, who is a fourth year Western student in political science, had a class presentation. So he kind of was presenting it to me and just going through it. And when he finished a 10-minute presentation, I said, son, you have to be a little bit slow. You're going too fast. And he said, yeah, the last time I did a presentation, the prof said it was a great presentation, but I spoke too fast. And I said, yeah, it's in the blood. We tend to talk very fast. So if I go on that tangent, just put a smiley emoji, I'll slow down, then you hear me. My 3 objectives for today is that I'll be able to communicate, and communication is never achieved when you say something and the other person does not understand what you are saying. So that's one objective. The other objective is to make sure that at the end of the day, we just have an idea. What is this, about net zero? How can we get it done? Where are we in our own journeys in our municipalities, and how can we help one another? And finally, to demystify that with a project that I'm going to share, that this thing can be done, and it can even be done below budget. So we'll go into the main team, and the other objective is I want it to be a dialogue, not a monologue. So I don't want to do all the talking. I'll encourage you to chime in with the help of Mentimeter, popping stuff, write stuff. Then collaboratively, we can, discuss around issues and find solutions. I know we are all at a different areas or journey in our net zero, roadmap. But then if we can talk together, we can always find a solution. So we've got the 7 steps that I'll be walking you through. These are practical steps. These are steps that have been tried and tested, and it has produced results. You see the result towards the end of the slides as I share my municipal experience on net zero. Then we will, of course, we've got Supri and Christina in the house. They're going to talk about their municipal experiences from Ajax and Caledon. Then we go into a time of general discussions. So next slide, please, Alex. Right, a little bit about myself. I think you've already this. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, so where are you currently in your net zero or low carbon planning? That is the purpose why we've gathered here. It's net zero planning and low carbon initiative. So I just want to know where each and every one of you are. So if you don't mind, please, respond to the Mentimeter. Let's see where you are in your journey. Okay. Okay, the responses are coming in. Not started. Got 2. We have target or council endorsed, but no plans. Got 4. We currently have 19 who have started plans, but not very specific. 20 not very specific. 18 we have detailed plans for 1 or more municipalities. Okay, I keep them coming in. There is 102, close to 120 of us online, so I want to see more numbers. We don't have 50% who have responded yet. So please just put a response out there. Say anything. If you haven't started, you haven't started. Hey, there's always a time to begin, and that's why we do these webinars and workshops to encourage each and every one of us that we can. You are never too late. So if you haven't started, say I haven't started. If you've started and you stuck, just let us know.
Bina?
Yes, a background. Alex, do you want to mute everyone? There's background noise from there. It's a big crowd in the house, so we have to try and manage that. We've got 114 right now. I see on my screen here. The responses are coming in. 24, municipal organizations or attendees said we have some plans, but not very specific. 23 said we have detailed plans for 1 or 2 buildings, and 8 says we have plans. Okay, I think we can. Let me just comment on this, then we'll move on. We don't have 50% responding, but that's okay. Let's comment on those that have responded. So from the response I have got 25, 24, that's 49 plus 16, that's close to 60 people have responded. From the response that we've got, 8 haven't started, 8 have targets or council endorsement, but no plans. So a greater majority have some plans, but not very specific. And a greater percentage, still 24, says we have detailed plans for one or more of our buildings. So it looks like we are getting somewhere. I mean, there's a good response in terms of where people are. We can close the Mentimeter. But as we go on, if you want to, like I said, I want it to be very much a dialogue. So feel free to put in a chat. I can always pause and Alex will mute you if you want to talk, and we will do that. All right, introduction. Let's begin. The next slide, please. Right. What is net zero? I mean, this is a term we do hear very often. Net zero can apply to so many things. It can apply to water, it can apply to other resources out there. But in this context, it's going to apply to energy and CO2 emissions or greenhouse gas emissions. That is where the net zero we're talking about is going to apply to. And when we say net zero, what exactly are we meeting? What exactly are we talking about? We want a situation whereby the kind of emissions that goes on, and we always do emit. I mean, in industrial-wise, building-wise, driving your cars in the street, energy-wise, there's always emission going on. But then to arrive at a place that you can say you have achieved a net zero status, it means you have the amount that is emitted equal to the amount that is being absorbed. So there is no excess in the system that is going to create all the challenges that we currently are facing. The pressure points that we do have is the floods that we see, the fires that we see, and all the stuff that is going on that are attributed to climate challenge. Some people will say, oh, of course, it doesn't exist, it's been whatever. The fact is, whether you deny it or you seem not to agree to it, doesn't take it away. It's still a fact, and the science is there to back it that there's a challenge. So basically, that's what net zero emission is all about. We want to be at a place whereby the amount we emit, can be absorbed by atmospheric within our situation. We can go to the next slide, please. So what is net zero energy also? Some of these things you'll be familiar with. It's just an intro. Net zero energy, net zero emission, they are two different things. At times they get used interchangeably. When we say a building has obtained a net zero energy status, it means the building can generate energy. As you can see, buildings that balance their energy needs with the energy they produce from renewable sources. So they generate energy for use within the building, but they are able to the amount of energy that is generated. Okay, there goes a smiley emoji, so I must slow down. Okay, thank you for that. All right. So when we talk about net zero energy in buildings, we basically referring to a building that generates as much energy as it produces on site. So it produces energy on site, and this energy that it produces on site with the help of renewable energy resources, that is what the building uses. So at the end of the year, the amount of energy is net. So there's a net zero energy that has been obtained. We can move on to the next slide, please. Carbon neutral. I love this word, and I'd like to spend some time to talk about it, because carbon neutrality, it's used interchangeably with net zero. You hear, organizations says, oh, I've achieved carbon neutrality or net zero. It's used interchangeably, but they are not the same. They are two different words, and they are two different things altogether. Carbon neutrality is a situation whereby you can generate as much emissions as you want, but then you have to buy offsets to offset what you've generated. So you are addressing your net zero emissions, but then you are addressing it through your ability to buy offsets. And the offsets can be in the form of carbon sequestration. It can be projects and investment, maybe somewhere in a third world country that you choose to invest in. It can be carbon credits or carbon offsets. It's a state that I'm a little bit uncomfortable with personally, because I feel like you aren't addressing anything here in terms of emission. You can emit as much as you want, but then so long as you have the funds in order to invest in a project, renewable energy project offsite, or to buy credit somewhere, then you keep emitting. When we talk about net zero, that is totally different. That is there at net zero, you are addressing your actual emission on site. using Science-Based Targets Institute, that 90% of your emissions needs to be addressed, and it has to be addressed across all scopes, scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3, and I'm going to talk about those scopes. It means all these emissions will have to be addressed through those one. So with net zero, there's an actual stuff that is happening to address your emissions, but with carbon neutral, not really. And I know some big oil companies have been accused of not doing enough to address the carbon situation or the emission situation, and they just go say, okay, but we are buying credits, so we are addressing it. They are carbon neutral, but they are not really, addressing the situation at hand because emissions are still going on. Next slide, please. Right. In our own context, as Canadians, we've got legislative mandate that want us to do net zero emission. That's the Net Zero Emission Accountability Act. It's established accountability, transparency, and framework, for national efforts to achieve net zero. There's a legislation that supports development of renewable energy technologies, and there's a net zero advisory body also that has been established, as a result of this legislation. It came into effect 2001, the summer of 2001. It received royal assent. So legislative-wise, sure, we are on track. In practice, I do not know, because we all know, you all read the same news I do read. Carbon pricing is no longer in the picture, it's gone. So what are we going to replace it with? We don't know. How do we address our emissions? How do we address our targets for 2030? I do not know. But Net Zero Emission Accountability Act of 2021 says by 2050, as a nation, we will be net zero. It means as a nation, with our industries, with our buildings, with our automobile sector, transportation sector, we'll produce as much and we'll be able to absorb as much, so we will cancel it out and to be a net zero situation. Is that doable? It is doable. Is that possible? I do not know. I don't know if, Stephen, you have anything to say on that. Do you want to chime in?
All I'm going to say is I'm an optimist. I've been at this for 44 years. We are making progress. We will make progress. And I'm going to stick to the mission, to the purpose.
Thank you for that. I believe that. Yeah, certainly progress will be made. We've seen this before, maybe at a smaller scale with the ozone layer, the Montreal Protocol, and where we are, with refrigerants and its pollutant effects. It's been done before, so it can be done. Whether the time frame is overly ambitious, I do not know. But I also know that in setting target, it's always good to go right on top, very ambitious. Per adventure, you don't meet your target, you fall somewhere in between. But you set it very low. If you don't meet it, you come straight and crash on the ground, which you do not want. So next slide, please. Right. So as a nation, how are we doing in terms of GHG, our greenhouse gas emissions? As you can see there, our oil and gas has the biggest emission, in terms of 31% to 217 megatons, of GHG emission. Huge, big. Understandably so. And of course, there should be a way to address this. So if most of this oil and gas go for carbon neutrality, then within this context, they are not really addressing it. But of course, they are buying offsets, to help in the bigger scheme of things. Next is the transportation. That comes 156 in terms of 22%, 156 megatons of GHG emission. That is huge as well. Then, of course, the buildings follow at 13%. And as municipalities and organizations that are in this webinar today, that is where we have the ability to play a role. I mean, we as LAS, I didn't do an introduction of myself and the organization I come from. Let me quickly do that. I work for LAS. It's a municipal association organization as part of the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. And LAS is a non-for-profit that works with the association, and our mandate is to develop programs and services for municipalities to help them to reduce costs, save money, and build capacity. So if you're a municipal organization, or if you're a municipality or a broader public sector, do not hesitate to contact me. At the end of the day, my contact details will be there. We are always ready to work with you in terms of your journey to net zero, and we'll do whatever it takes to get it done. There's Mohammed is on the line. There's an hands up here.
Yeah, hi, Christine. I have just a quick question. This data based on scope 1 and 2.
Say that again, Mohammed.
This data, what you present here, is based on scope 1 and 2 emission?
Oh, you mean the GHG emission here?
Yes,
Oh, it's all scopes 1, 2, and 3.
1, 2, and 3?
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Okay. Sure. We'll talk about the scopes maybe for there is a big number online. So for those maybe that are new, I'll quickly go through the scope 1 and 2, as per what Mohammed was asking for us to know what are these scopes. And once again, I just want to, so that is who I am. I was giving an introduction of the organization that I joined, and feel free to reach out to me and we'll see how we can work with you in terms of your roadmap to net zero as a municipality or a broader public sector if you are online and you are listening to me today. So this is where we have the biggest impact and we can make an impact. 13% in terms of GHG emission, the third, agriculture doesn't even come, heavy industry doesn't come. We are kind of a significant chunk here. And because we work with municipality, we know municipalities have lots of buildings. Some municipalities have 200, 300, 500, a lot of buildings in their portfolio that they manage. So we can play a great role here in reducing that emission through energy efficiency stuff that we do, through renewable energy integration options, and of course, electrification could be one other aspect. Next slide, please.
Great timing, Mohammed, because we're just going to get into the scopes.
Exactly. So here we go. Emissions have been categorized into scopes as per the Science Based Targets Institute. They've been categorized as per scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. So what is scope 1? When we're driving our cars on the road, when we're burning gas in the boilers that we use in our arenas, process emission, the wastewater treatment plants when we're flaring methane, fugitive, unintentional release, gases, vapors, refrigerant leaks, that goes on every day at our arenas, agricultural emissions from livestock. These are scope 1 emissions. So if you're wondering what is scope 1, when you get in your car, if it's not an electric car and it's ordinary gas, there's scope 1 emissions going on right there. How can we mitigate it? That is a subject for another discussion. Yeah, if at your process emission from your wastewater treatment plants when you are flaring methane, that is a scope 1 emission going on. And if there's refrigerant leaks as well, unintentional, but it goes on, scope 1 emission, right? So what's scope 2? Scope 2 is emissions that come from electricity plants. On this scope, Ontario we are quite good as a province. Because our grid, our electricity generation is pretty in terms of renewable energy. I have some figures here. Let me check and see. Yeah, the breakdown. 72% of our electricity is from renewable source, and that is nuclear is 33%, hydro is 24%, wind is 13%, and solar is 1%. So we're pretty good. So in terms of scope 2, we are good. It's manageable, but we can still do better because 28% is natural gas as part of our grid mix. So that's something we need to address. So scope 2 is basically emissions that is being produced by burning fuel at a power station to produce electricity. Coal, natural gas, they are all part of scope 2, and that is categorized under the Greenhouse Gas Protocol. And this is a framework. The Greenhouse Gas Protocol is a framework that is widely used for counting, for carbon accounting. Next slide, please. So when we come to scope 3 is a little bit kind of, it appears to be neither here nor there, but there's still emissions going on. And it's difficult to track because it's very broad and vague. It's indirect emissions from a company's value chain but not produced by the company itself. So purchase goods and services, emissions from buying, using products from suppliers, transportation, in certain instances, even emissions from employee commuting. When an employee is commuting from, like, you live in the GTA and you have to go downtown, like where our association office is, and you live somewhere in Burlington, you are commuting every day, that can be categorized as a scope 3 emission when you're doing carbon accounting. So it's very broad, but of course it needs to be taken into consideration. Next slide, please. So embodied carbon, and most of the stuff that we talk here, and even the examples that we're going to speak about, myself, Supri, and Christina, is operational carbon. But there is another element of embodied carbon that comes in installation of materials, in manufacturing, transportation of materials, in demolition. Embodied carbon, takes place right there. How do we account for it? Stephen, do you want to speak to these two? These two to track embodied carbon.
I'm actually going to say I'm not an expert at that one, but that tool actually it's pretty interesting. It's fairly easy to use. I think that this really comes into the idea of whether we take down a building, whether we retrofit a building. There's lots of ways, but I mean, like I said, I'm not the expert on that area, right. So I'll leave that to others. That's
right. Yeah, if anybody has ever used this tool before, or as part of your the carbon a GHG emission accounting, if you have encountered but if you have accounted for embodied carbon, please let us know. Just chime in during the question, and the voice is cutting off. Okay, let us know during the question and answer time to talk about it. But just so you know, it's another aspect that we need to take into consideration: embodied carbon versus operational carbon. But most of the stuff that as municipalities we've done, and also myself in my previous role as an energy manager in the municipality, we did, in terms of net zero, was operational carbon that we addressed, not embodied carbon. Next slide, please.
Yeah, I think Christian, the real issue is, when we retrofit a building, we don't have to replace that building. So we have to think about it from that point of view: retrofit or replace. And that's going to become more and more important going forward. So it is a real issue.
Right. Sure. Next slide. So the 7 magical steps. I say magical because we've used it, we've tried it, and it's worked, and I'll talk about, you will see it later on in the example that I'll share from a new build point of view. So what are the 7 steps to net zero? And I didn't say what I did before I joined LAS, the organization I'm working right now. Prior to LAS, I used to work as an energy manager with a municipality outside of London. That's the Middlesex Centre municipality. I did that from 2014 to 2017. And 2017, I moved on to LAS, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. 2 days ago, I started receiving messages on my LinkedIn profile. Oh, congratulations on your work anniversary. And I said, wait a second, it's March. Okay. And I checked, and I've been 8 years around. I didn't know it went that quick, but it's been 8 years. It's great. And there's a twist to that, because I normally don't stay in my professional work life the last, let's say, 2 decades. I've never stayed in one particular job over 5 years. I don't, because I get bored very quickly, and at the 4th and the 3rd year, I'm looking for some more challenges, and I'll move on. But LAS has kept me for 8 years, so they've broken that record. It means they are doing something good. Anyway, let's go to the 7 steps of getting to net zero. Right. Step 1. We need a dedicated staff. This is something that we cannot just say somebody in the finance section. We do LAS work with municipalities to address energy reporting. It's something that is supposed to be sent to the ministry every year, and we work with municipalities. And that portfolio basically sits with the finance, and they do it. And in other municipalities, it sits with maybe if they have an energy coordinator or a climate change person, he will be responsible for that. But largely, maybe 75%, the energy reporting sits with the finance folks, and they do it. When you come to net zero, or the journey to net zero, you need a dedicated staff. You can't throw this to planning to do it. You can't throw this to community services. It won't work because of the amount of work that is involved, and the dedication, kind of the undivided attention and the focus that is needed. In 2014 up to 17, when I worked with Middlesex Center and we did what we did there, which I'll be talking about, we got to that point because of a dedicated staff. And the IESO used to have a program. I'm not sure if this program is still around. It's funding for energy managers. The municipality didn't have the funds or the budget to hire me, but this program made it possible. I got hired, and we did well in terms of our energy to net zero as a small municipality at the time. And like I said, I'll talk more about that. So having a dedicated staff plays a very big role, and I know the province has helped in the past.
Kristen, I like to add one thing. I think in addition to the dedicated staff, I think that it's important to engage all staff in this, right?
Right.
I think people have to understand, they have to be engaged.
That's
because
right.
if it becomes siloed, right, in one department or one person, then you don't have the engagement of the organization. So the engagement of the organization through the people is just as important in my experience.
That is true. You just went ahead of me, Stephen. That is step 2. Can we go to the next slide, please? But thank you for that. Teamwork.
That's your segue.
Exactly. Teamwork and senior staff buy-in is a step. I mean, what we achieved in Middlesex Center could never have been done if senior staff wasn't on our side. But above all, if the elected officials, in the municipal sector, the senior staff can love what they do and they can take stuff to council. But then the final decision comes from elected officials. They have been mandated to decide in terms of what project gets done and what project does not get done. So if you don't have these two, the elected officials and the senior staff on your behalf, it becomes challenging. And that's exactly what Stephen said. So one of the initiatives, form a green team, form a net zero planning committee. If you are starting and you do not know where to begin, form excuse me, a corporate energy management team as a staff. Let's say you are climate, you've been hired as a climate change person. Form some of these groups, and in these groups, make sure there's an amount of senior staff, on the team. You have even some elected officials there, because when they understand the concept, then approval becomes much easier, and going forward becomes a reality. I love this quote of excuse me. I love this quote. I love what Henry Ford said here. It says, in terms of teamwork, it says, coming together is beginning. Staying together is progress. Working together is success. And I believe that is so. We saw it at Middlesex Center in terms of what we did with our net zero fire hall. Right. So slide 3, please. So plot your path to low carbon, the plan. Where are we going? This is where all the reporting comes in, the asset management, the renewal, the plans, the building condition assessment, the net zero planning studies, climate action plan, feasibility studies, and specialty studies. That is when they all comes into being. You can't measure it. If you can measure it, that's what Lord Kelvin said. He said, if you can measure it, you can improve it. So this report, carbon climate action plan, net zero planning, building condition assessment helps you to measure it, to measure your status. What are you as a municipality? What are you doing? Or just getting to know your status in terms of net zero, and you'll be able to improve it to get to that final destination. Next slide, please. And the step 4 is consider and integrate all energy sources. Super important. Conservation is important. Energy efficiency, we can't overemphasize that. Electrification, geothermal, ground source heat pump, air source, and of course renewables. I personally do not think we can. Maybe we can. I mean, if we are super creative, we can eliminate renewables and we'll get to net zero. But I think there will be an amount of renewables in our initiative, or there has to be an amount of renewables in our initiative to arrive at net zero. So in step 4, you consider and integrate all these energy resources. You don't go 100% renewable, neither do you go 100% electrification. I mean, like energy efficiency and conservation, but you bring all these measures, on the table, or energy sources on the table, and you're able to arrive at a net zero destination. Step 5, please. Next slide.
think this one got mixed up, but I'll bring you step 5 and we can come back to that one later.
Okay, all right. So step 5 is the life cycle costing for financial justification. To me, all the steps are crucial. All the steps are. Someone asked me the other time, Christian, what is the most important part of the body? So that's a very interesting question. Every part of the body is very important. You say, oh, no, but we know there is, sorry, I'm digressing, but I'm making the point. So, we know there is a part called the appendix and it doesn't even have any function and some people can go and remove. I said, I believe science have not yet discovered that function yet, but every part of the body is important. The eye cannot say, I don't need the food. The head cannot say, I don't. Everybody plays a role. So every step we have brought here plays a critical role. But I think life cycle costing is one of the most important. This is where the justification happens. I've seen and as I said earlier, in the municipals, because I'm talking to a municipal audience, I'll relate to municipal examples. In the municipal setting, it's the councillors that make the decision. You can have the greatest of projects. If it goes to council and they say, no, we don't want it, it will not see the light of day, end of story. But through life cycle costing, I've seen $1 million, $1 million projects being approved by council because the staff that took that report did the life cycle costing and they told council that, hey, if we don't do this now, this is X amount of money we are losing. But if we do it today, this is how our return on investment and this is how much savings we are going to get, end of story, and on. And council said, wow, this is a super project. I mean, if council should approve, when you take projects to council, there are all competing priorities. There is housing, there's homelessness, all stuff going on. So for council to say 1 million should go to LED upgrade, then it means the life cycle costing truly brought some value home for them and they saw the need. So life cycle costing plays a big role. And now traditionally, council will just use the first cost, which is the lowest cost. They don't take the disposal cost into consideration. They don't take energy costs. They don't take training, initial purchase, or even operation and maintenance. They only use one criteria. So when you use life cycle costing in your net zero to council, it works. And it worked for the fire hall that we built in Middlesex Center. It worked last year for a $1 million project, for a municipality that I don't think I'm allowed to mention their name. The staff could be online, listening to me. Kudos to the staff for the great work she did in sending that report to council because she got 1 million and 1 million is 1 million. You can't underplay that. Anyway, so life cycle costing is super huge in our steps to net zero. The next slide, please. Then funding. If you are a municipality, funding is also critical, so crucial. I mean, in Middlesex Center, we could never have done what we did if the funding wasn't there. But we use some of the big guys like FCM, that came to our aid and they funded it. And for a municipality, this is the context. A municipality that is less than 20,000, you can Google Middlesex Center. I'll talk about the project with the net zero project we built there, the fire hall. And I remember those years working on it, and the director for public works said, it's like we're doing this in the center of nowhere, Coast Stream. I mean, who knows Coast Stream? It's nowhere in this world, but look at what we are doing, and we're able to do it because we applied these 7 principles, and the funding also, we got it through FCM, and we're able to do it. If you are a municipality in Ontario, you absolutely don't have an excuse. At the beginning of the year, I attended a webinar by the IESO, and they are giving as much as close to $1 billion with a B, not M, $1 billion per year for the next 12 years, 10.9 billion for commercial and residential retrofits, solar, geothermal, everything is all there. So if you're a municipality in Ontario, there is no excuse. And normally, I was reading a journal this morning, be proud to this workshop, reading an article, and they said some of the constraints to net zero, just want to quote that, is budget constraints is one of them. Staffing limitations is another. Resistance to change is another, and technical challenges. The two, I've mentioned it in our slides, and I not even seen this article 7, 8 years, almost to a decade when we did our fire hall, but we applied this budget constraints, we got the funding, the staffing constraint, we got the dedicated staff, and it worked. So these are constraints, and if you address them, you get your net zero energy going. So there are a lot of funding these days, both from federal and provincial. So the point I'm making is, though this article was referring to budget constraints, in the municipal sector, the money is there. We just have to know which button to press to get the cost. All right, next slide, please. Okay, and plan to monitor and verify. Super important. At the end of the day, how do we know we are making progress? I'm yet to get 24-month energy data from the Middlesex Coldstream Fire Hall to see what they're doing. The last time I checked, they were generating as much energy as they were producing on site, and even over-generating through the solar panels. And they had the municipal office in next by, so they could generate energy for the fire hall with a two bay EV charging stations. They could generate enough energy and to generate for the municipal office as well. So planning to monitor and verify is super important as well, because if you don't know, if you are not able to monitor and verify, where lies your justification that you've arrived at net zero? But if you are, then there is a justification. Stephen, what do you have to say on this? I want you to chime in.
Sorry, it's simply, if you don't look at the numbers, they may not appear, right? It's so
Right.
important. And you got to begin at the beginning. So get your baselines, and even getting your baselines will help you understand maybe some of the opportunities you have within those buildings. So absolutely, even simple monitoring can head off disasters, meaning things don't occur the way you want them to occur. So
Exactly.
couldn't endorse that more strongly.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Stephen is my mentor in this, so I always want to hear his voice as I keep going. Anyway,
Well,
thank you, Stephen.
but I'm going to tie the people thing back to this too, because people need to see the success. People, not just your senior management people, not just you or the coordinator, but also everybody in the buildings, because everybody has a part to play, and it's often the actions of the individuals at an operational level where maybe things go off the track. But if everybody sees the success and sees the numbers and knows what's happening, it's like that speedometer or that fuel efficiency gauge in your car. We can all contribute through that monitoring and feedback.
Exactly. That's right. Well said. Thank you for that. All right, next slide, please. So these are the 7 steps, and I can tell you, in certain quarters and in certain circles, more especially down south, currently with all the political, climate going on right there, renewables have been kind of stigmatized, and giving kind of names, but I'm telling you, these initiatives works. These initiatives not just work, but at the end of the day, it has an impact on the bottom line of the organization. So what are some of the potential benefits if you embark on a roadmap to net zero, and if you eventually get there? And we've seen it with the fire hall at Coldstream. The reduction of GHG, of course, that is a fact. The Coldstream fire hall, which I'll be talking about, does not have natural gas. It was built with geothermal. It was built with a 60 kilowatt solar panel that generate energy, very soon lots of energy will be generated because the sun is coming up and being use it on site, and the excess energy is fed into the grid. So reduction of organizational GHG, that's a plus, no doubt about this. Reduction of cost over the life cycle of the building, that's a super plus. When we did a life cycle costing for the fire hall, we realized in 30 years time, the path of net zero was much better financially than doing a conventional, fire hall that had natural gas and all the other forms of, emission that was going on. Then occupancy comfort, big thing. Occupancy comfort is something I can allude to. In my office here, I did a 2-ton, what do you call it? Heat pump in my home. I renovated.
Air source heat pump.
Air source heat pump, exactly. I did a retrofit 2003, and one big thing I've observed, in my home office is the occupancy comfort. Whereas previously with the natural gas, I had, you have cold spots, it get cold, and it gets warm again. But with a heat pump, there's a continuous, heating, and the occupancy comfort is right there. So these are some of the potential benefits. But if we can demonstrate this benefit to council, and above all, tell council we're going to save money, council will always say yes and never no to our projects. I think I've spoken enough. We want to hear from Megan. Yeah, sure. Megan, your hands are up.
Yeah, I just see, I've been responding to a lot of questions that are coming in, but this one I thought, going back to the life cycle cost and the potential of future removal of the carbon tax in Canada, or at least a shift in maybe how it's being delivered. Are you still seeing reduced life cycle costs when excluding that carbon tax increase?
That's a good question. And I've thought of it also when the announcement was final. I've been following the news in terms of the carbon tax, and when the announcement was finally made, I believe it will still be a plus. So like I heard listening to one podcast, and I heard one economist says, it's not going to get any better. Things are still going to get expensive, whether there is carbon on natural gas or carbon not on natural gas. So I believe still going this route, the financial benefits will be there. And we only hope, we now that carbon tax is out of the picture, we come up with another intervention that will help us as a nation to reduce our emissions. Because without the carbon tax, I don't see how we're going to meet our 2030 emissions targets, let alone the 2050. So to answer your question,
Christian,
Megan, sure.
I know we're really tight on time, but I'm going to add that when we did the life cycle costing of that net zero building, the one you had up the slide up there before, the strong contributor to the lower life cycle costs, in addition to carbon, in fact, maybe more dominant, was the maintenance on the equipment, because the new systems they put in there were actually a lot less maintenance required, more robust equipment. And in fact, that makes the difference. I had to go back and take the carbon tax out of that one, but I would bet money that it would probably still be the best option in that sense.
Yeah, I agree. I really agree. And like I said, I gave it a thought, when the announcement was made, and I haven't worked on the spreadsheet, but I still believe that will be the best option. So to answer the question, sure. We've got next slide, please. Then we will let Supri and next slide.
Yeah, here we have a Mentimeter. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move this over to the Q&A, and we can come back to the results later.
That'll be great.
And so that's going to be posted. And I just want to thank everyone for the participation in the chat and the Q&A so far. As we continue, feel free to ask questions there. And thank you, Megan, for championing some of those responses.
Right. Good. So now some municipal examples of low carbon and net zero. We will hand over to Ajas and to Caledon to tell us what they've done in their municipal context. There's a good work that is going on out there. And like I said, if you haven't started, you are never too late. Just give me a call. We will see how best we can work together. But municipalities are doing something. And if we are the third in terms of GHG emission, nationally, then we have to do something. So I'm not sure who is first, whether it's Ajas or Caledon. Okay, it's Ajas. Go first, alphabetical. A.
Thank you, Kristen. I'm really excited to share some of the initiatives here that we have at Ajax. Next slide, please. So the first one is the corporate net zero emissions plan. Our Ajax Council basically passed a resolution similar to what Christina was mentioning with the 2021 legislation to set new corporate GHG emission reduction targets compared to 2019 levels. So we are required to reduce 20% by 2025, 40% by 2030, and 100% by 2050. So to support these targets, the town is actually currently developing an actionable strategy, which will help in decarbonizing our buildings. So this study, it focuses on energy and emission reductions through a deep building retrofits, implement cost-effective solutions to reduce GHG emissions, create an environment that is comfortable, healthy, and resilient for all building users, and also improve staff engagement, which has been discussed so much about here about teamwork following the 7 principles. Next slide, please. So the corporate net zero plan, it also, so basically it's being developed by conducting ASHRAE level 2 and level 3 energy audits at our top 15 energy consumers, such as like the recreation centers, the community centers, the admin buildings, the library, and so on. And as Christine mentioned, we also have a corporate energy team with staff from facilities, finance, planning, procurement, who have been heavily involved in the development of this plan. Next slide, please. Another initiative is the Energy Cap Carbon Hub, which is basically an online dashboard that shows scope 1, 2, and 3 GHG emissions that, again, Christine was mentioning, and the importance of all of that. So this platform, basically what it does is it showcases the town's GHG emissions from its corporate assets through the energy consumed. So we have the Energy Cap platform, which directly pulls the utility bills from the vendors, and then the associated GHG emissions are displayed on a dashboard, which is accessible to all staff. So the importance of this is it would provide a visualization of the GHG emissions, and it'll help in monitoring our decarbonization efforts and also identify new carbon reduction opportunities. And most importantly, it will instill that accountability factor and facilitate that behavioral change that we are looking to kind of push for in terms of conserving energy and increasing that operational efficiency. And moreover, it also serves as a platform to keep key internal and external stakeholders to inform them on the progress that the town is making towards the reductions in corporate GHG emissions. So through these initiatives, the idea here at the town is basically to foster an energy management culture for all staff, and not just that one dedicated person who's trying to push for all of these initiatives.
Cool. That's great. Yeah. I like the
so much.
culture bit, trying to foster that culture there and not just leaving it to one person. So it becomes a whole village, trying to achieve this goal. And it works. It really works. All right. Next, let's hear from Caledon. Next slide, please.
Hi, everybody. So I'm going to just be sharing a project example of how we look at decarbonizing our buildings. So our Caledon Center for Community Recreation and Wellness, located in Bolton, it's one of our largest energy consuming and emissions participating buildings in our town building portfolio. So the rooftop units were reaching end of life. This building, we kind of call it a bit of a Frankenstein because it went through several different expansions and extensions. So with that, the serving rooftop units have different asset year end of lives. So we decided to look at it holistically for this project and do an HVAC strategy. So looking at all of these units, let's evaluate different options. Let's look at, of course, we had to include a business as usual approach, which we've definitely steered away from. Looking at higher efficiency units, looking at a mix of hybrid units, and then looking at full electrification of those units and evaluating the energy emissions and the cost impacts of those options. So this was a collective, strategy across different divisions. So it involved our strategic initiatives staff, so their project management staff that oversee large capital retrofit projects and undertake that project management role with that. It included facility staff, and then it also included energy and environment staff. So through that HVAC strategy, we were able to work together and actually discuss these different options and able to land on retrofitting the HVAC equipment at CCRW with heat pumps. So I was really happy where that landed. Some of them are hybrid units, so some of that auxiliary heat is going to be provided still by natural gas. But we're looking forward at the rest of these units. There's about, I believe there's about 14 rooftop units. So we're really looking at these next ones moving forward to be full electric, and that auxiliary heat to be provided by electric sources. So the benefit of having this full HVAC strategy, just jumping to the funding piece, that's where we have a plan laid out. We understand the cost impacts of this, and we can go to grants to look to help alleviate some of those capital costs. So the biggest barrier we found with this project is that it requires a very large electrical capacity upgrade in order to support full electrification. So we're actually able to leverage this HVAC strategy and apply for federal funding to help offset these costs. We're still yet to find out if we're successful, so TBD on that. But another way that we can unlock some opportunities is maybe approaching alternative financing options. So looking at the ESCOs, looking at SOFIAC, and seeing what we can do to help fund this so we can fully decarbonize the HVAC equipment at this large recreation center. We took this as a lesson learned and applied this to another building that has its rooftop units actually all set to reach end of life, so 17 of them, and evaluating those options and what that could look like, understanding there could be an electrical capacity upgrade required, but asking those questions, what can we do within an existing electrical capacity? Maybe there's a bit of a hybrid approach we have to take here, and which areas of the building do we really want to prioritize when we're electrifying? And then, of course, the measuring and monitoring of this. So looking to tie in the upgrade of these systems and looking at the building automation system concurrently and enhancing those controls as we upgrade and retrofit that HVAC equipment. And of course, I can't say monitoring without mentioning Red Screen Experts. So definitely looking at the performance monitoring for all these buildings. I know we're tight on time, so there's some estimations of the energy savings and emission savings there, and we can hop to the next slide. And then another important project we're undertaking, so it's active right now. We're updating all of the building condition assessments for all of our buildings, all of our park structures, and then tying this in with a net zero lens. So we actually we're successful in receiving around $200,000 from FCM to undertake these studies and looking at a really detailed net zero emissions assessment on 8 of our priority buildings. So from this, we're hoping to take these lessons learned and really tie in together strategic energy management, asset management, looking at life cycles with our equipment, having energy and emissions be at the forefront, not just the life cycle of equipment when making these replacement decisions. And then this will inform our next iteration of our corporate energy and emissions strategic plan as a corporation. And I know we're tight on time, so I'll leave that there.
Thank you so much, Caledon. That's a great job you're doing out there. Next slide, please. So I quickly run through my new build example. Just want to touch on end of life. End of life is always a great time, to bring in this intervention, electrification, net zero planning. End of life, great. Another, timing also is a new build. If you have an opportunity for a new build, that's a great timing. And this is what we did with the Coldstream Net Zero Energy Fire Hall. We've gone through 1 hour is a very little time. There is a workshop, in-person workshop, and you get the opportunity to tour the facility as well on the 14th of May. I might as well, throw out that one. 14th of May, it's an in-person workshop on this fire hall together with Steve Dixon, trying to find out what exactly did they do and use this as a learning example for other municipalities. There'll be a virtual one also, but if you want to see it in its style and glory, sure, 14th of May, reach out to me if you want more information. But we saw the timing at the time I was there as an energy manager, 2013, 2017 I left, but 2014 we started talking about a new fire hall. Fresh out of college. I was a graduate intern at the time, so went out there and got hired, and I'm still enthusiastic about these things, but it was super at that time. I said, hey, if you're going to do a fire hall, why not do a green fire hall? So this is what came out of that. It wasn't easy, but the 7 steps that I spoke about, we applied it and it worked, especially getting councillors on board. So it was built in 2017. It's been operational since that time, 8 years now. No hydro bills since that time, no natural gas on site. It's a 6-bay fire hall together. If you look right at the end there is I'm talking fast because I want to finish now. there is a 2-bay fire charging station right there, and it's been operational. It's one example of how do we go net zero as a municipality. Next slide, please. Right, so this is what is right, a 60 kilowatt solar panel, 52 vertically drilled wells, and geothermal heating and cooling, triple pane window, and this floor area for the fire stations is radiant heating. That is what goes on right there. So next slide, please. Like I said, I've just kind of given you a whole there we go. And this is how it all started at the construction phase. And I don't want to sound overly simplistic, but this is something I believe can be done by every municipality. When you have an opportunity for a new build, you can throw this right in there. And with the funding which is available, it can be done. But check us out on the 14th of May. Shoot me an email for more questions on the workshop, in-person workshop, and come learn more about this. You know, to be worth your time. All right. Okay. So I will stop here and see we are on the spot. I don't know if we have any more questions to address.
We don't have a lot of time, but if any do come up, we can kind of answer them as they come. I just wanted to say thank you to the contributions of the whole team that was on board today from Save On Energy and from the various towns and municipalities that you represent, and say thank you for your really, really great contributions. If you have any questions or anything, I know there's a lot of comments in the chat about seeing this again or seeing past parts of the municipal series. So the information is in the chat of where you can find that on the Save On Energy website. This will be recorded and it'll also be shared there. Beyond that, if you have any questions about trainings that are going on, please connect with us through Save On Energy Training and Support. There's an email there that we respond to. You can post webinar intake form for webinar for one-on-one coaching with various energy professionals that we have on our team, such as Stephen Dixon. And also a huge thank you to Christian. And if you want to connect with Christian at all, these are his informations. Anything from yourself, Christian?
Well, I just want to say thank you all. And it's been like drinking from a hosepipe this morning. So come check more about this process and how we can get things done on our workshop, in-person workshop on the 14th of May. And if you are out of the province and you can't come in person, there's a virtual option on the 18th of June. Come check it out, and we will take time from 8 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. to take you through the process. These things are doable, and one of my objectives was to demystify that it cannot be done. It can be done. We've got a facility, Net Zero Energy, that has been in operation for 8 years now, not 5, 8, and it's still going, and the municipality is saving money. I had a story, but I don't think I have time for it now, so I'll stop right there. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thanks to them.
Great job, Christian. Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
You. Right.
Wonderful. So on that note, thank you so much, everyone. Enjoy your lunch or whatever hour it might be from where you're connecting, and we'll stay in touch.
There is a hand. I mean, we can still be here. There's still someone lift a hand. I'm not sure if they have a question.
Yeah, I did see that. Are they still around?
I think maybe they went. 20. The numbers are going down, so they are going up. Okay, that's okay.
Sorry,
Thank you so
I
much.
have to hop to another meeting, but thank you.
Thank you, Christina.
Thanks,
Thank you so
Christina.
much
Christina.
for
Thank
coming.
you.
Right,
Thank you for this
thanks.
opportunity. Take care. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Bye, Supri.
Supri.
Bye.